It's no secret that Cartoon Network is more adult than Nickelodeon's lineup when compared to shows about talking sea creatures, magic fairies making children happy, and a boy genius. Cartoon Network, meanwhile, has shows about two kids forcing the Grim Reaper to be their friend, a group of teen superheroes fighting against powerful world-ending threats, and a boy genius. Okay, they have some similarities, but you get the picture. Cartoon Network shows are darker, and the channel is considered more grown-up and mature, even if it was still meant for kids. Though that didn't stop them from trying to push those boundaries as far as they could. So with these dark moments, just which are the ones that push those limits the farthest? I'm Kifinosi with Wicked Binge, and today we're checking out just what kinds of spooks and scares Cartoon Network has up its sleeves. First things first, before we set out, we have to set a couple of ground rules. With how many spin-offs of certain shows there are, like with the different versions of Total Drama Island, we're just going to focus on the original classic seasons of these shows. So no entries for Alien Force, the Redonkulous Race, and so on. Secondly, this list isn't necessarily the darkest moment of each show, but the ones we found to be the most unique. Oh, sure, some of the usual suspects will be here, but we wanted to show off the vast range of how dark these shows can get. Thirdly, due to how we already went over 10 of Courage's most disturbing episodes, we won't be counting any of those for this list. Don't worry, the dog still has plenty more scares to deal with. Finally, when we say moment, we mean anything related to the show. It could be an episode, could be a character, or could even be a backstory. Basically, anything goes. Now, starting off our list, we have Cow and Chicken, or more specifically, Cow and Chicken's parents. Now, throughout the show, all we see of them is just the bottom of their legs. This isn't the first show to hide the adults' bodies off screen. Looney Tunes did this, Tom and Jerry, and heck, some of the parents in Kids Next Door didn't have faces. So Cow and Chicken's parents are the same, right? Wrong. If one can pay attention to the shadows in the show, you can see that Cow and Chicken's parents are literally just pairs of legs. This is even shown as early as the first episode. Sure, we did see their upper halves later on in the show, but with Cow remarking that they were her science project, it just raises more questions than answers. Next up on our list is the reimagining of Teen Titans Go, focusing on Robin's training from Batman. Now, this show is nowhere near as dark as the original, as any angry Teen Titans fan can attest to. However, the show can drop darker subjects without even realizing it, just due to how carefree it is. We're talking about Robin's relationship with Batman. This Robin was trained under him before defecting because he felt he was not being respected enough and left to strike out on his own as a superhero. But that's just him being overly dramatic, right? Well, no. In the episode The Best Robin, Team Robin talks about how Batman tends to go through a lot of Robins, with them not so subtly implying that they're either injured or killed on the job. Apparently, training under Batman is a nightmare. In Mo Money Mo Problems, Batman was such a terrible mentor that, alongside training Robin, he was not allowed to be close to his money. Training sessions were so brutal that Robin went to sleep crying into his blanket. This is probably the most toxic the Batman and Robin dynamic has gotten over the years, and it only gets darker from here. Setting sail next is the marvelous misadventures of Flapjack with its Tee-Hee Tummy Tums dream sequence. Now, the show has a plethora of disturbing moments to choose from, like with the cat with the disturbing photorealistic face, anything involving Dr. Barber, really, and all the dark stories in Unhappy Endings. However, we went for something a bit more understated here. Just because it's less disturbing doesn't mean it isn't horrifying. Flapjack is interested in the Comb Stranger, a stranger who walks around the harbor and gives combs in exchange for candy. After staying awake all night to try and catch him, he collapses from exhaustion. Flapjack then dreams of the Comb Stranger giving him his own comb. Sounds sweet at first, till he talks about how the comb will help get all the bugs out of his head. On cue, Flapjack's hair starts teeming with bugs as the stranger just watches on, laughing at his misery before Flapjack wakes up. It's definitely more of a nightmare than a dream, landing at a spot on this list. For our next disturbing moment, it will have to come to the most common threats in Ed, Edd, and Eddy, the Cankers. Compared to the normal kids of the cul-de-sac, with the Eds and their scams, Kevin being the neighborhood bully and so on, the Kankers are viler than the others. Pretty much everyone in the cul-de-sac is scared of them, with their favorite victims being the Eds. They claim to have a crush on the Eds, but they certainly don't act that way. They're more interested in having the Eds to themselves for their own amusement, either forcing them to do their chores, hypnotizing them into acting like dogs for them, or forcefully kissing them when they clearly don't want it. Yeah, it's definitely not something that would be shown on the air today. Their most infamous feat would be Run for Your Ed. After losing their ship in the bottle, the Kankers turn the cul-de-sac upside down trying to get it back, destroying roads and houses and having it look like the apocalypse came to the cul-de-sac. With just how much abuse they put the Eds and the rest of the cul-de-sac through, it's easy to see why you may want to stay away from them. Unless you're into that kind of woman, we won't judge. Dexter's Lab is brewing up its own disturbing episode with Monstory. Wanting to make his sister quiet because of just how she's interrupting him so often, Dexter tricks Dee Dee into drinking a potion to silence her. However, instead of silencing her, the potion turns her into a monster with long chicken legs with a hairy face. Now forced to drink a similar concoction just to fight back, Dexter turns into a larva before undergoing metamorphosis. He turns into a giant purple dinosaur, getting more and more frightening with each stage. Dee Dee goes through a similar transformation, becoming bigger and hairier until she becomes a giant spider. As disturbing and creepy as it is, it's definitely one of the cooler creepy moments here. All of this just for a knock-knock joke. Get ready for the ride of your life with regular shows. Hello, governor. Just like with the other shows on Cartoon Network, Regular Show is no stranger to creepy moments. With just how bizarre the park can get at times, it's reasonable to expect things to get creepy. In one of many heart-pounding moments this show offers, Rigby rents out and watches a videotape about a haunted taxi called Hello, Governor. The plot is about a haunted taxi taking down and killing members of a gang his soul used to belong to. A possible reference to I Bought a Vampire Motorcycle. Yes, that's a real movie. Slasher movies can get weird. And getting terrified by the movie, Rigby starts to have nightmares about the taxi. From it stalking him outside to his friend Mordecai being possessed by the taxi before it drives right out of his head, crushing it. This goes into a constant assault of dreaming as if he is haunted and hounded by this taxi, getting to the point where even saying, "Hello, Governor," can spook him. Of course, in Regular Show fashion, it turns out that the car is real and tries to run over Rigby, Pops, and Mordecai. Of course, it's actually just one final trick, and it was the employee of the movie rental place Rigby got the film from behind it. As silly as the idea of a haunted car is, this episode did its best to keep the charm of the show as well as scare you. For our next spot, we have the Amazing World of Gumball's very own The Void. This episode sets up a new location called The Void, where if anyone enters it, they're rendered as non-existent to the show's cast. After finding out that an old student, Molly, went missing, Gumball and Darwin searched for where she went, eventually coming up to an old house, or rather, where her house usually is. They literally bend at the fabric of reality to show the void. What's doubly creepy about the void is, well, if we're to forget about whomever is inside it, the place is alive. It's constantly trying to keep everyone inside. Whenever it feels like a character was a mistake, it swallows them up, alongside any evidence of its location, determined to keep itself secret. This doesn't even include what it did to Rob when he was stuck there and forgotten by everyone, turning him into a full-on villain. This is one location you do not want to end up in. For a more fun kind of disturbing, we have the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy in Billy and Mandy Save Christmas. Of course, Billy and Mandy would have a terrifying Christmas special. That's the kind of show this is. Billy wants to prove that Santa is real to Mandy and Grim, so they go to the North Pole to find out the truth for themselves. Not only is Santa real, but he's been infected by a vampire, and it's up to Billy, Mandy, and Grim to go out and slay the vampire that bit him to free Santa from his curse. This episode has traditional Christmas themes and ideas warped into a horror style. It's kind of like the Nightmare Before Christmas with Jack Skellington, giving Christmas a horror theme, here in the form of elves becoming more demented and violent. It's revealed that Mrs. Claus is the head vampire, and Santa looks like a cross between a zombie and a vampire. This is a show that revels in how creative and disturbing they can get while still being silly enough for kids. The head vampire, Baron von Ghoulish, wants to help save Christmas because he dreamt of it in school. Meanwhile, Grimm wants to save Christmas because he wanted to save Christmas with the vampire in school before singing about their quest. It's the kind of show that can turn on a dime from horror to humor without missing a beat, and it works wonders in this winter horror land. For the reboot of the Powerpuff Girls, we're going to meet up with a certain villain from this version, Silico. Now, the remake of the Powerpuff Girls is not as well liked as the original, with it being more geared toward kids. It focused more on the daily life of the girls rather than balancing out with action scenes. That being said, there are still some new threats in the girls' faces from time to time, and the most serious threat is Silico, a silhouette with his only distinguishing feature being his green eyes. Silico relies on his brain and technology to succeed in his goals. Initially, Silico was just a lonely kid with distant parents. He relied on robots he created with his talent of engineering for companionship. However, due to his house being caught in a fight between the Powerpuff Girls and a monster, he ended up losing his house and his robotic friends in the process. Since that day, he has formed a lifelong hatred of the Powerpuff Girls. He started off by having the Amoeba Boys upload a virus he created to spread his influence over the internet. With his newfound power, he proceeds to manipulate the townsfolk to turn against the girls, either by spreading fake news articles about them or using a new technological device to hypnotize the townsfolk into serving him. What makes him so creepy is that he's an expert at manipulation. He is able to sway the public in his favor, from telling the town what to think of the girls through news articles to using technology to shapeshift into other people, and even death can't stop him, as he was able to upload his consciousness online and 3D print a new body for himself. This isn't even going into his ultimate fate, with him being unwittingly hooked onto one of his own Buglies after it was modified by Bubbles. It tricked him into being stuck in a dream state where he believed he won by killing the Powerpuff Girls. As someone who represents the dark side of technology, Silico certainly is a great representation of that. Up next, we have Total Drama Island with Hook, Line, and Screamer. This one falls more into the idea of being a parody of traditional teen slasher movies. However, it's still disturbing for a game show parody. In this episode, the main host of the show, Chris, challenges the remaining campers to survive a killer let loose on the island. Of course, said killer is just Chef Hatchet in a hockey mask, but not only is the cast left in the dark for a bit, but so are we. All we see are Chris and Chef acting scared and deserting the campers on the island. But this is all just a stunt for the show, right? Well, yes, but also no, because there is actually a real killer on the island that nobody knew about, which freaked out Chris and Chef. You know things are serious when even they are legitimately scared. Sure, Chris was scared due to all the legal paperwork he would have had to go through, but still, definitely a tone setter for just how dark this series can get. For a Steven Universe surprise creepy moment, we have Steven killing Jasper. Yeah, this does come from the future side of the series. And considering how we see that series more like an epilogue than an actual new series, we are letting it slide. Besides, the very idea of a pacifist like Steven shattering Jasper is mind-shattering. Pun entirely intended. Sorry. After being scared of his new powers, Steven starts getting trained by Jasper to try and hone these newfound powers before going into a sparring match to test his might. However, Steven starts to enjoy fighting a bit too much. He becomes more and more lost and enraptured by the lifestyle, getting more and more ruthless until he shatters Jasper's gem. Steven's reaction to his first blood, or rather gem, being broken is just as accurate as the audience's, with their most likely stunned reactions. Just goes to show there is a little bit of darkness in even the people we would never expect that from. Sure, Jasper does get saved in the end, but for that moment, all expectations that you once had about the series were likely destroyed. On the topic of dark sides to main characters, we have OKKO Let's Be Heroes with TKO. Wanting to find a way to get more powerful, KO accepts an offer from a stranger. Being told to focus on all his hatred, KO turns from his normal self into his dark side, TKO. This new side is not only more powerful, but also spiteful and hateful toward those that look down on him. Meanwhile, the real KO is trapped inside his own mind, a prisoner, as TKO runs loose. The damage that TKO is capable of is immense. He can effortlessly beat up pretty much everyone else in the plaza, create shockwaves that render people unconscious, and, well, he even tries to beat his own mom. It's a concrete example of power at a price and shows just how dangerous said power can be. To see just how evil children can be, we have Ben 10 with Kevin Levin. Basically a vile version of the main hero, Kevin is Ben without any of his redeemable traits. Sure, first we just see him as a kid who's only interested in personal gains, like pretty much any kid would be. However, he takes a quick dive off the deep end by planning to crash a train with money right into a train of people, only caring about the money. Kevin only became more unhinged as time went on. Thanks to his power to absorb alien data, he gets more and more powerful, becoming a bigger and bigger threat. With his alien powers at his disposal, Kevin becomes a criminal, destroying the alien forms of Ben's reputation in the process. He then tries to kill off Ben, only being thwarted by the last second time and time again. As a reminder, Kevin is just a kid, ready to kill another kid just because he wants to. And he gets pure delight from it. Add in the fact that Ben really didn't know about Kevin's plans for a while, meaning he probably got several people killed for his own amusement. You got one twisted villain. At least until Alien Force came around and turned him into a good guy. Yeah, well, good luck justifying all that. For the original Powerpuff Girls, it's a literal textbook case of tough love. In a plan to destroy the Powerpuff Girls after seeing them do good yet again, him ends up creating an evil gas that's cast over the city. This spray makes the entire town hate the Powerpuff Girls. These acts of anger toward the girls range from cats attacking them to having the mayor send a SWAT team after them. Even the narrator and their own father get in on the hate train. To make matters worse for the girls, they have to fight them to knock them out of their spell. It's definitely disturbing due to just how spiteful their usual friends and family are. And of course, the fact that him is reveling in their misery adds the cherry on top of just how twisted him can be. From talking about a villain to a good guy, up next is Wilt from Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, or rather, Wilt's backstory. Now, Wilt is an absolute sweetheart of an imaginary friend, through and through. However, fans had one question when seeing him for the first time. What happened to his eye stalk and his arm? Well, in Good Wilt Hunting, we find out exactly what happened. Being created by Jordan Michaels, he was asked to help him learn basketball. Despite the short height of his creator, the two of them rose to the top and became professionals at it. However, Wilt did indeed have a left arm and straight eye stalk in the past, so what happened? Well, a jealous kid made his own imaginary friend, Foul Larry, and decided to cheat to beat them. Standard villain stuff, right? Well, said cheating included planning on crushing Jordan with a slam dunk. Wilt pushed his creator out of the way just in time, but ended up getting his arm crushed beyond repair. His eye stalk stunted because of the basketball hitting his eye. With this resulting in Wilt's team losing, he runs away in shame, with Jordan unable to find him. This is a bit of a dark reminder of just how dangerous imaginary friends can be, with one almost killing a kid just out of envy. It's also jarring because it's a reminder of how Wilt is handicapped and how he became this way. We kind of forget about it because of just how great of a character Wilt is, but this is a cold reminder of reality. It's a well done story about reality, but it's still a rather dark one. For one of the creepiest backstories in a Cartoon Network episode, we have to look at Codename Kids Next Door's Operation Archive. As fun and whimsical as the show can be, if you really take one step back and look at it, the world is actually a dark place for the KND. They are at constant war with the adults in their lives, and the two sides genuinely hate each other. Adults want to force kids to act like them while having extreme views about them, and the kids are just as violent and spiteful toward the adults. It has to make you question how this all came about. This episode gives a pretty dark answer to that question. Basically, in number one's presentation, adults were created by kids to be mere slaves, and due to their mistreatment, they rioted and overthrew the kids, winning the fight. However, they decided to form peace with the kids, only to betray them by creating schools to brainwash them. Going full on the second renaissance from the Animatrix, number one's speech shows just how much hatred there is between adults and kids. Even worse, apparently he was right on the money, as his teacher not only cuts him off, but reports to someone that they now know. Who knew that the war between kids and adults could be this dark? What list of scary Cartoon Network moments would this be if we didn't have Courage the Cowardly Dog here somehow? Let's fix that with The Quilt Club. Even after going over 10 disturbing episodes this show gave us, there was still plenty of material to work with, and we picked this episode out of the pack. Desperate for friendship, Muriel ends up meeting the Stitch sisters. two conjoined siblings who task Muriel with quilting more and more elaborate things for them, eventually creating a giant football field. She's so desperate for their approval that she ends up forgetting all about her own husband, Eustace, because, well, it's what grants Muriel access to the quilt club. To be fair though, given how vile Eustace can get, trying to find something else to do with her time isn't necessarily a bad idea on paper, just not this quilting club specifically. This is basically an allegory for cults, with a person being shown something that they want, them being convinced to leave their family and friends behind, then having them fully accept the cult as the only thing important to their life. It's brainwashing through and through. Muriel was literally being woven into the quilt, alongside other women who were stitched on in as well. Courage only was able to save Muriel by the hide of his skin, or fur technically. In the end, the sisters are stitched into their own quilt, now used as Eustace's handkerchief. A gross end for a disgusting couple of cult leaders. Just outside the top 3 with the original Teen Titans, we have just one question to ask. How long is forever? Short answer, too long. Long answer, it's complicated. This episode takes place in the future after Starfire is unwillingly taken to the future, thanks to the villain of the day, Warp. In the future, Starfire finds out that the Teen Titans disbanded after she was lost. While Robin was able to make a name for himself as Nightwing, Cyborg, Raven, and Beast Boy weren't so fortunate. Cyborg ends up stuck inside the tower due to how limited his new power supply is, letting the rest of the tower fall to shambles due to how limited his range of movement is. In comparison to the strong-headed and confident hero he was, Beast Boy has been reduced to nothing more than a circus act and a boy scared to fight off any villains. Raven, meanwhile, is stuck in her own little world after stopping the prophecy of the Jewel of Trigon by herself, unable to trust anyone again. She can't even trust herself, not able to tell Starfire apart from her own illusions. It's a very bleak and hopeless future. While it was eventually undone thanks to Starfire going back to present day, it's certainly hard to forget. For the bronze medal of creepiness, it's adventure time with Finn and Jake and the Lich King. Do we even need to say anything about why the Lich King is scary? The show writers themselves made specific mention in their pitch document that he is not funny, and it shows. His face is almost skeletal, getting worse and worse for wear as the show goes on, peeling away more skin till he's just a skeleton. His right horn is broken, and he looks like the Horned King from the Black Cauldron after being melted down. His personality also doesn't make him look soft either. His goal is nothing short of global destruction and the death of everyone. He can make others do his bidding by just looking at them, and if he's feeling pretty sadistic, which is almost always, use his words to further break down people. As far as the main threats in Cartoon Network shows go, the Lich King is definitely up there among the worst of the worst. In the second place spot for our creepy list, we have Samurai Jack with the episode The Aku Infection. It turns out that usually nice characters turning evil is a common theme in these shows. K.O. Kincaid had his dark self, the city of Townsville turned evil, and now Aku has infected Jack with a virus after coughing on him from a cold. Hey, even evil overlords need to sleep and get better from colds, it's just a fact. Now first, it's just a black hand, but soon enough, Jack realizes that even unintentionally, he's becoming more and more wicked. He starts stealing gems from miners that helped him feel better, debating with himself to help someone or not for a reward, and he even kills a robot that wasn't harming him. What gets this entry up so high is that Jack is flat out scared by this. When he tries to get help for this, his body is pretty much all Aku, save for an eye that is crying. He is practically pleading for help in between the Aku side of his new personality lashing out. It's hard to watch due to just how desperate and hopeless Jack feels here. Sure, he does get better in the end, but it was certainly a journey to get there. Finally, at the top of our list, we have officially gone over the garden wall and encountered the most disturbing moment in all of Cartoon Network, the Beast. If the Lich King was scary enough due to his presence in an otherwise happy show, the Beast is what happens when there are even fewer limitations. This monster is an amalgamation of all those that got lost in the forest. The Beast is someone who stalks and watches over Greg and Wirt, waiting for them to fall deeper and deeper in hopelessness and despair over the idea of never escaping the forest. He's capable of manipulating and tricking others into getting what he wants, mainly to keep his lantern and thus himself alive. When souls he haunts become too tired and weary to fight back, that's when he goes in for the kill. He sings a song not only to convince them to stop fighting, but to give up and let him turn them into trees that litter the forest. He's basically one giant allusion to the idea of suicide and death, and he definitely lives up to that idea. Also, his actual design, not just the shadow version of him, is made up of all the hollow and husk faces of the souls that succumbed to him and became trees for him. Yeah, looks as horrifying as it sounds. Definitely deserves to be called the most disturbing anything, really, in all of Cartoon Network's history. And with that, we're done here. What are some of your most disturbing moments related to Cartoon Network? Do you think a moment we listed isn't as scary as we thought, or maybe more scary than we perceived it as? Talk about them in the comments below. Be sure to stay up to date with this channel and our other channels by subscribing and clicking the notification bell. If you want to see other videos, check out our playlist, and as always, stay wicked.